The 0-2 pitch, swing and a miss, struck him out. The Philadelphia Phillies are 2008 World Champions of Baseball.
Good. Welcome back to not just another episode of the Phixated Podcast. I am your host, Mike Azalina, and I am joined by the guy who got me doing this show, Regs. 200 episodes, baby. It is the celebration episode before the hopeful celebration episode. Congrats on 200, my friend.
Right back at you, pal. The best 6 months of pestering I've ever done in my whole life.
I mean, we debated this earlier. I don't know if it's 6. I feel like it was longer.
I think it was.
You were intense.
It was an intense 6 months. I think the process took maybe a year and a half, but it was an intense 6 months when I finally got sick of your bullshit of like giving me all this dumb excuses of why we can't do this. And look at us now.
Look at us now.
You know, a couple months away from 4 years and 200 episodes.
And as you'll,
not a regret, not a regret in the world.
No, it's been a blast. And we're so grateful to be doing this episode as a Super Bowl preview.
Yeah.
It is really cool the way this fell.
Yeah.
We talked about waiting until the Super Bowl, but realized
I feel like that's too much. That would have been too much.
Well, it could have gone.
And it could have gone. Right. We want to celebrate a little bit the 200 episodes. Yeah.
We wanted to be happy on the 200 episodes. But just like so much to celebrate over the course of, the years we've been doing this, right? Like, look, we could talk about the downloads and we can talk about the people we've had on the show, right? Like all of that has been fun and we'll talk about that later. But I think for me, outside of like, the way our friendship has even grown from this is the fun that we have experiencing these really cool moments in Philadelphia sports and in each other's lives. Like we've talked about, your kids' baseball, and we've talked about my silly softball stuff, and we've talked about job changes and transitions, but we've also talked about Weston Wilson hitting for the freaking cycle and the Phillies clinching the pennant and making the playoffs 3 consecutive years, the Eagles getting to a Super Bowl and now getting to a second one, right? We bitched about the Sixers endlessly. So much has happened in 4 years, good and bad, for our sports teams. We've built a merchandise link. We have multiple social media pages.
Yeah.
We haven't quite hit the website yet. We were working.
It's all right. Slow and steady wins the race.
We've accomplished a lot, man. There's a lot to celebrate, and I'm grateful for all of it.
Yeah. I mean, it's been these Phillies playoff runs, talking about a game 1 win in Houston, like literally the night after my grandfather's funeral. Like again, I'm in a weirder place if I'm not talking to you that night, sitting in my hotel room after that. Being like that, I can't tell you, Azzy, how many times I've gone back and watched our reaction to the Phillies making the playoffs that year. And just that, like those 20 minutes from when we're trying to see if Milwaukee is going to win the game and the Pirates coming back and like, that not being how we have to do it. Now it's Eflin in the bottom of the 9th trying to close it out. And you and I like live reacting. You and I sitting here and watching the draft that has changed the Eagles' future with Quinion and Cooper, like literally sitting right here where I am, watching that together and talking about it and reacting to it live. Like you said, this Eagles run, the Phillies runs, like it's all been, again, stuff we would have been doing anyway. Like you and I would have been talking about this regardless. But it's like you said, the the way it's enhanced, like you said, our friendship, us talking about this, like this time, like, hey, we got to get together and talk about this every week. It's been awesome. It's just been so great. And I'll never regret pestering you. Never.
No,
I'll never
and
regret it.
I got to be honest. I don't know that I had 200 episodes on my bingo card either. I thought it was going to be, we'll give it a go, and if it fades, it fades. But like, it's something I look forward to every single week. I look forward to. I'll text you on Thursday mornings and be like, "What time?
Yep.
Like, when are we doing this? Or are we going to do it tonight? We're going to do it tomorrow." And I especially have loved the playoff runs where we do it multiple times.
Yeah.
Whether it's Phillies or Eagles or Sixers, where we jump on after a game and just process it. Because to be honest with you, especially after losses, like I would just be sitting by myself and scrolling Twitter and feeling bad, but being able to go somewhere and talk about it has been really, really helpful. So thanks for that. And we'll talk more about it at the end of the show. But speaking of bingo cards, real quickly, I sent you a picture of something Andrea did. If for those of you that don't know, I haven't shared it with many people, like you and like 2 others. But my wife saw this thing on TikTok where there's a woman who watches her husband watch the game, and she has a little bingo card that she kind of fills out based on what he does and says. So she wrote one, and it is spot on.
It's so good.
There's one thing on there that I disagree with, and I'd like her to change, which is when she wrote, "This is revenge." That is not something.
Yeah.
I mean, I said I wanted to play the Chiefs for revenge.
Yeah.
But like, I'm not gonna sit there on Sunday and be like, "This is revenge." Like, it's not gonna happen. But
the rest of it was fantastic. So good.
Yeah. I'll have to put it on the Facebook page and on the TikTok page for people to look at so that they can see it. My favorite though, I do love the one that's like, I gotta tell Regs. Like, I love that one. But the one that makes me laugh, because I know exactly what she's talking about, is the one that just says Andrea with all the A's. Because I will say that so many times during a game, she's in the other room and like Saquon breaks her on, I'll just yell, Andrea.
Yeah. Mine, the Regs one, of course, is fantastic. The one that I love so much because it related so much to me, and I was so tickled that you do the same, is standing like an outfielder. It's just something I do constantly with no consistency. It just could be a random play, and I am up with my glove on my knees, and I am just ready to go. And then the next best one is falling on the floor. I do I do that multiple times a game.
Yeah. That one and running around the house with the dog.
Yeah.
Those are good ones.
Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah, so I'll have to post that. I'll have to.
Yeah, please do. That's great. Yeah, that's all right.
PG.
That's all right.
All right, but listen, packed show tonight.
Yeah.
We are starting here with Chiefs fan and who I consider to be an expert on this team, Kyle Mess. He's a good friend. So we're gonna get into that in a moment. And then we bring in another guest who came on to celebrate our 200th with us. And then we'll get into our own quick preview with some keys and predictions, because we sort of preview the game with Kyle, but we have our own little thing at the end that we've been doing all year. So without further ado, let's just get into it. We're bringing Kyle right in. So ladies and gents, enjoy our conversation with Kyle Mesa, and we'll see you on the other side. All right, everyone. We are so excited to have back with us. It has been 2 years, but I know he listens to all the shows because I get messages about his enjoyment of Regs' rants constantly. And I love that he and I have like refreshed our like childhood relationship, and we're able to talk sports constantly. So we're bringing back old friend, good friend, Kyle Mesa, friend of the show, Kansas City Chief expert. Kyle, welcome, buddy.
Thanks, boys. Good to be back with you again.
Excited to have you, man.
I'm not gonna lie. I might have wanted a Bills fan, if I'm gonna be honest. Not that I don't enjoy talking to you, Kyle, but maybe don't give me the greatest quarterback I've ever seen in my whole life. Like, I would have loved to talk to you maybe about how the Chiefs played the Bills a few times and like get your perspective.
Dude, those games are the cause of a number of the gray I've got going on. Let me tell you.
Yeah, it's a battle, man. It's a battle. I Yeah, I was gonna just ask you, like, do you need help sort of getting ready for the Super Bowl? I know it's new to you, like this whole process of like preparing, and we've been to 3 in the last 7 years, so I don't know how you're feeling about it, but
Listen, I will be totally honest with you guys. I don't take it for granted at all. The Chiefs went more than half my life without winning a playoff game. I was 40 years old before I got to see them in a Super Bowl. And I remember how surreal that was, just them playing in the game that first time. Um, I don't take it for granted at all. It is so much fun. Uh, don't apologize for their success at all. It's really, really exciting. So, um, yeah, it's a cool thing, no question.
and I say that purposely because I know the amount that we talk, and you've said I can't even count the amount of times over the course of like the last few years that in my text chain with you, you have said, I don't take this for granted. This is a really special thing to be able to watch year in and year out. And I think growing up a Phillies sports fan, I feel that way about that '08 Phillies team and that run that we had, even though we only had
Yep.
I feel very much that way, even about this run of Eagles football. We don't have as many Super Bowls, but the constant stream of success that you're always in the conversation. And I say it on our show all the time. Don't take that for granted. Like be happy with the fact that you're in it every single year. And I think there's something to be said for that. And obviously Big Red's a reason, and obviously 15's a reason, but it's organizational, right, Kyle? Like that's not just a two-person thing.
Yeah, it trickles down. The guys at the top definitely set the tone, and then everyone else falls in line. Like, I've been reading a lot this week about guys that are no longer on the team anymore. L'Jarius Sneed and Colin Saunders and folks like that were, if the Chiefs win, it's 3 in a row, and those guys were part of building that. Even Tyreek Hill, who you never know what the hell he's going to say, has been weirdly complimentary this week of the Chiefs, and saying about how much he's rooting for his friends because he was a part of it. And you know, uh, it's not often that teams get to make history in sports. This is they have that opportunity now, and I think all season they've sort of been feeding off of that. I don't know how much you guys watch of like the mic'd up stuff, but I love that at the end of the Super Bowl. I even watched the one where we lost to the Bucks. Um, and like before they even got their hands on the trophy, some of the Chiefs players were saying, "I want 3. No one's ever gotten 3. 3 is the goal. Let's get back here again." Um, so yeah, it's pretty cool.
I
I know
think
I'm lucky, I'll tell you that.
it speaks, and we have the connection of Andy Reid between our two franchises, and I believe a lot of what you just said kind of starts and ends with Andy, because when you listen to a lot of former Eagles that played for him, but kind of have carried that torch since him, they all talk about the brotherhood of being an Eagle,
Yeah.
and that they're still connected within that organization, and the organization does it the right way, and it started with Andy. Vinny Curry is a guy that I listen to often, and he's constantly, and Regs, you can probably back this up. I might be missing some things, but Andy Vinny talks a lot about how Andy set this tone, and it when Andy left, they carried it through the Chip years and the Doug years, and that went to like Fletcher and BG and Lane and Kelsey. And now it's kind of going through this next set of players: Jalen Hurts, Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, and that group of guys. So I like to credit it to, like you said, the up top, like the Jeffrey Lorys and Howies. But I do think a lot of the praise from an Eagle perspective, from an Eagle fan perspective, and maybe from a Chief perspective, shines a light onto to who Andy Reid is as a
Yeah.
head coach. Regs, would you
Yeah,
would
I
you
mean,
agree with that?
it's it's culture setters, man. There are just some guys who are able to go into some place and set a look. We talk about this all the time. Like, just look at the Sixers right now. The Sixers like had an identity with AI, right? That guy was a, say what you will, if you didn't like AI, blah blah blah. AI was a culture setter. Like, he was a winner, man. That's all that guy wanted to do was win championships. Again, I know I bring him up all the time, but like, you look at a guy like Tim Duncan and Pop, like, you just can't get away from it sometimes. Like, obviously they need each other to get to the heights that they got to. And again, you think about Patrick Mahomes. Like, if Patrick Mahomes is now a draft pick and goes to the Brian Daboll Giants, you know what I mean? Like, Patrick Mahomes isn't Patrick Mahomes. It's no offense to Patrick Mahomes. The talent is there. But Patrick Mahomes is now who he is because of his own talent, his work ethic, obviously. But it's also because Andy Reid was there to like show this guy the ropes and be there as this head coach who was like, kid, I have been there, done that, man. You've got the talent. Like, let's ride off into the sunset together because we can do this. Like, you and I can do this. We'll figure out the rest of it because the organization behind us is ready to go and ready to do the right thing. And you saw it with like the 7 straight draft picks of defensive players, right? After they know they have this guy in Mahomes, stack up to make this defense that much better. All those things lead to this sustained success. Like, Andy Reid set the culture for the modern day Eagles. You know, after the 70s and all that stuff with, with Buddy Ryan and, Reggie White, all those guys, Andy Reid set the modern Eagles like franchise up for success. That's his legacy for the Eagles.
One of the really cool parts of that, the mic'd up episode from the Chiefs-Eagles Super Bowls, was after the game, Brandon Graham sought out Reid, and they put the whole thing in the show. It was a long, prolonged hug, and BG was I just had to show you love, man. I had to show you love. So happy for you. It made me a fan of Brandon Graham. I'm not around him as much as you guys are, but I thought it was the classiest thing ever. But it really spoke to what Reid means to some of the guys that have played for him in the past, and he's awesome. We're super lucky to have him. Super lucky that Mahomes came along shortly after Reid got there. But yeah, it's a good thing. He's a great guy. Certainly someone that's pretty easy to root for. It's crazy to me that he's still never won a Coach of the Year. Certainly, I was pushing hard for him to win it this year. Like I have a say, but it's that's one of those mind-boggling things. It's like, how in the world does a guy like that never win that award?
Because you're almost too good, because it's all about the expectation, right?
Yeah.
The expectation is not the same for the Vikings as it is for the Chiefs. So when somebody can take the Vikings, to 4 more wins than anybody expected, people go nuts. But it's been like, oh yeah, the Chiefs won 15 or 16 games. It's like, they should do that.
And it's wild because, he's a surefire first ballot Hall of Fame coach, and he might go in without a Coach of the Year award. But I mean, at the end of the day, he's going to be written down as, if not the greatest coach, he's going to be right there.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel very fortunate.
Mount Rushmore discussion. He really is. It's getting close.
Yep. And I never have a bad thing to say about the guy. I know you'll find Eagle fans who don't love Andy and thought that, he kept coming up too short in this city. But I think there were a lot of other factors in that are conversations for another day, because there is a game that we have to talk about. Some game being played on Sunday that, people are somewhat excited about, some for the commercials, some for the halftime show. Those listening to this show, though, excited for the game itself. So, Kyle, from a Chiefs perspective, because, we see it from the outside, we might catch it 2 or 3 games throughout the year, follow it as closely as we can. I've studied for like the last 2 weeks. I've read the articles that you sent, all that stuff. But I want to know, from KC perspective, I'm going to start here. When you look at this Eagles team and you look at their offensive side of the ball and you look at their defensive side of the ball, and you're picking out those individual players that maybe have you sleeping with one eye open at night. And I'm going to push a little bit here, because I feel like if you're asking me this, the easy answer is 1-5. Perhaps the answer for you is 2-6, and that's fine if it is. So if you say 2-6, I might ask, like, who else on the offense gives you a little bit of the, because I feel like 2-6 is like, of course, that 60-yard runs in his back pocket at any moment. But if that's your answer, cool. I'm gonna ask for a second one, but give me both. Offense, defense. Who's having you sleep with one eye open? You, Spags, Andy, anyone?
Yeah, so offensively for the Eagles, it is Barkley. It was kind of like 2 years ago where defensively it had to be Hassan Reddick. Like it has to be Barkley.
Yeah.
He's just awesome. Local guy, obviously. So super fun around here. The town's buzzing with that. But he's great. He's a special player. To your point, any play can go 65 yards. You can bottle him up for a few snaps and next thing you know, it gets blocked appropriately. He makes a guy miss in the hole, and 70 yards later, it's an explosive play. But if I can't pick him, I will go with A.J. Brown because the Chiefs are going to play a lot of man coverage. And A.J. Brown is really big and really fast. In the first Super Bowl, he cooked Trent McDuffie, which on that long explosive touchdown pass, and McDuffie at that point didn't have the national buzz, but Kansas City circles, we kind of knew that we had an all-pro on our hands, similar to you guys with Mitchell. So when Hurts cocked and threw the ball and the camera panned, and I was like, oh, it's McDuffie. For that hot second, you feel comfort. And then, oh my God, Brown caught it anyway. So he's going to get a lot of man coverage, and that's going to be a key matchup for us as far as can the corners hold up against him. But the answer is Saquon. It starts there. You have to contain him. He's, did he get to 2,000? I think he got to 2,000.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's ridiculous. It's not DeAndre Swift back there this time.
No. Or Miles Sanders who disappeared after one carry.
Yes.
Little upgrade. And how about on the defensive side?
Defensive side, it's Jalen Carter. Before I know the last time we were on 2 years ago, I was kind of getting into how the interior of the offensive line for Kansas City is very, very good. The two guards in the center are as good as they come. You go Joe Thuney, All-Pro, Creed Humphrey, one of the two best centers in football, and then Trey Smith is also excellent at right guard. This year, the left tackle issue in Kansas City has been a problem all season. They've tried multiple options out there, and through injury and ineffectiveness, it hasn't worked. So they finally resolved they move Joe Thuney from left guard to left tackle, and Michael Caliendo is now playing left guard. Caliendo is not that great, and Joe Thuney, for as unbelievable as he is at guard, is not as awesome at left tackle. He's got real short arms, makes him an awesome guard, not so much at tackle. So Jalen Carter wrecking the interior in the absence of Thuney will be not great for Kansas City if he's able to do that. 2 years ago, such a huge part of the game was the Chiefs' offensive line actually did a great job against the Eagles' front four. And Fangio is going to zone up behind a front four, rushing a lot. So huge part of the game, again, is going to be pressure up front for the Eagles. Can they do it or can't they? And it starts with Jalen Carter.
The Josh Sweat and Thuney matchup really has me interested because Josh Sweat is he will rush with power. He can get you with speed. He's very long, and I do believe you're going to see a little bit of Brandon Graham sliding inside too, which causes a whole nother set of problems because of his speed. He's strong, but he's a lot quicker. And they did that in the Super Bowl against the Patriots, where they ran like a NASCAR type of thing. So the Chiefs are going to have some decisions to make on who do we block one-on-one? Can Trey Smith hold up one-on-one on Jalen? Can we slide Creed Humphrey to help on a Milton Williams, who has been really good this postseason? He's been one of the best interior pass rushers in the postseason. He's getting a pressure rate over 50%, which is just insane from an interior defensive line standpoint. So I'm very curious about that matchup. I do want to make a Saquon point that I did not know until today that blew my mind before we move on here. And it was something Dan Orlovsky tweeted out earlier. Saquon's the 54th player in NFL history to score 20 touchdowns from scrimmage. So 53 other dudes have done it. Pretty cool. Pretty telling. Still an impressive stat. Here's where it gets wild. Of those 54, he is the only one whose average score exceeded 30 yards in length, 32 and a half
That's the
yards.
average.
That's his average is
Average
32
touchdown.
and a half.
That's
There have
unbelievable.
been 3 other players over 20. These guys, pretty good. Mark Clayton was a receiver, 29. Jerry Rice, 28.7.
Ever heard of him?
Ever heard of him before? And the last one, I said the name to my dad today. He goes, "Holy shit, Gale Sayers,
Wow.
27.4." So Saquon's in some pretty wild territory in terms of what he's been able to do. And I've tried to think of touchdowns he scored inside the 10, and there aren't many. Most of what he does is he breaks these big runs off for 60 yards.
Yeah. The tush push probably cost him the MVP this year. I mean, how many extra touchdowns would he have gotten?
I mean,
14
14 possibly, like
Yeah.
15 maybe.
So crazy.
Still, one of my favorite things is Jason Kelsey when he first became an Eagle, telling him, "Don't get tackled on the one."
And then I can't believe how many times it's actually happened. Like it's happened more than 5 or 6 times. It's not just like 1 or 2. It's that it's actually happened almost double-digit amount of times that he gets tripped up literally at like the inch yard line.
Against the Rams, they tried to get him in from the goal line like 2 or 3 times because Jalen's knee, and they just couldn't do it. But let's turn to Kansas City here, and tell us about some of their strengths offensively, some of their strengths defensively. Obviously, like I said on one of our TikTok videos today, I'm not even going to mention Pat. We already know what he brings and how terrifying he is. But what is it that they do really, really well from an offensive perspective, and something that they do really well from a perspective?
So what makes them really good offensively, aside from Patrick Mahomes, is they're really varied. If you guys remember when the Patriots were in the middle of their dynasty, teams used to say all the time they were really hard to game plan for because the game plan would change week to week. Like they would be a heavy rush team, and then the next week they'd come out and throw it 60 times and stuff like that. Andy game plans so well. The Chiefs have not run a design quarterback sneak basically since they ran one in the Super Bowl on a 4th down at a key moment on a little bootleg, and then Pat slid. But they don't run quarterback sneaks by design after he got hurt that time where he dislocated his patella. So they came out against Buffalo and they RPO'd Buffalo to death. And it was not anything that the Bills could have possibly game planned for because the Chiefs hadn't put any of that on film all season. So I think that's one of the things that makes him so tricky offensively is they actually do save things for games like this, which is crazy. Like who actually has that luxury when you're going to be here, right? Maybe not here, but certainly to last week based on their history. So that is huge. They're also healthy. Which is really, really important. Coming into last year, or the last time we played you guys, that wide receiving core was one of the worst in football. Sky Moore is barely hanging on to a roster spot this year. Kadarius Toney not around, Marquez Valdes-Scantling not around. Like, Juju is 2 years older and his knee still sucks. Like, their receiving core this year is much, much better. You have Worthy, who is developing into a really good receiver. He was drafted to be the stretch the field guy. Yeah. And then Rashee Rice, who would have caught well over 100 passes this year had he not blows up his knee. And now all of a sudden it's all right, Xavier, you actually have to learn the full offense now. And he's been really good, especially coming down the stretch. They're using him a lot of different motion stuff, a lot of different drag routes. The Chiefs aren't really an explosive play team anymore. They go down the field tit for tat. A lot of short yardage and yak type stuff in the passing game. So Hollywood Brown is back and healthy. He's a really good man coverage guy, which is something that the Chiefs have pretty much struggled with. And if you guys go zone, one of the things that Juju does pretty well, he's good against zone, and Kelsey is a zone destroyer. So the offensive game plan is going to be fun to watch because you just don't know what it's going to include. So that I would say is their biggest advantage there. They're really varied offensively, which is nice. And then defensively, The Chiefs' defense is still really good. Spagnuolo is one of the greatest to ever do it. He's absolutely fantastic, and they've drafted well. They turned the Tyreek Hill trade into a number of impact players that are on the roster defensively. It's very similar to the draft that you guys had recently, where they nailed. There's 4 or 5 starters from the same draft, many of them in the secondary. So Kansas City can afford to let the Titans overpay for LJ Snead because we have Jalen Watson coming up. So the secondary is quite good. They're going to man you guys up a lot. Spags likes to send pressure. And Spags' game plan a lot of times is dependent on he just got to get you one time. They just got to get you one time, and it's a big play. I think back to last week where the fourth down play against the Bills, it's 4th and 10, and they blitzed their best cover corner, and the Bills they were so full they had shifted their pressure or protection rather to the left, and then here comes 2 guys uncovered from the right. Not to bring up the bad memories for you guys, but the fumble 2 years ago, Hurts takes the snap, he goes to run, and Nick Bolton is uncovered right in his face. And it's like, oh my God, and he drops the ball. They got to get you one time. And Spags has been pretty good at creating that one moment where somebody comes clean and somebody makes a mistake, and that's they kind of thrive on that. So that's the deal defensively for them. They are the 4th best scoring defense in the league, which is something I didn't necessarily realize coming into the game. But they're quite good on defense. I don't know that they've seen an offense. Well, the Buffalo's offense is pretty awesome, but the Eagles' offense is damn good too. So it's going to be a big matchup for them for sure.
Yeah, fourth in blitz rate too. 4th in the league in percentage of plays blitz, and they're not your typical blitz. They're so exotic. You mentioned a couple, and that's what Spags is so good at. I feel like I'm watching Jim Johnson's defense back when I was a kid all over again. From the offensive perspective, there you mentioned explosive plays, 29th in explosive play rate. But the interesting thing about what the Chiefs want to do offensively is what the Eagles try and force teams to do defensively. So you've got something's got to give here, right? Like the Eagles do want you to march down the field and give them more opportunities for that one mistake that they can cause. But the Chiefs also want to do that. So like something's got to give here, and I'm really excited to see. That's the matchup I'm most excited for is that offense against that defense, and the chess match between Andy and Vic. It's just that's going to be a blast. So talking about your strengths, I do want to your thoughts on places where they can be exposed. And I don't know that I'm tied to offense and defense, but what are some places where you look at your own roster and say this is where they can be exposed? For me, it's still the situation on opposing tight ends. The Eagles really struggle with opposing tight ends. That has been an issue, continues to be an issue. Zach Ertz torched them in the NFC Championship game. The blitz pickup on the offensive side is a place where the Eagles can be exposed. Jalen's ability to get the ball out quick. So from your side of things, where do you see the Chiefs being occasionally or consistently exposed?
It's the same 2 areas from 2 years ago. I'm really worried about the tackles being able to hold up against your pass rush. Same story as it was 2 years ago. And defensively, it's the same. Our linebackers in space. Our most athletic linebacker off of that team is no longer on the roster. That was Willie Gay. And Drew Tranquil, who I know as Domers we all love, has not been as effective this year as he was last in the coverage linebacker role. So linebackers in space is definitely the scary thing for our defense. And the other thing is too, we're so reliant on sending guys to generate pressure. You run the risk of if you send a guy and there's a block, it gets blocked the right way, Barkley's going 70 yards. So having to commit guys as often as the Chiefs commit guys against an explosive play offense like what you guys have, that gives me some pause for sure. We'll see. Both of those things that Kansas City actually did pretty well with 2 years ago. So we'll see what it looks like on Sunday.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. One place I wanted to ask you about because I read about it the other day. Uh, One of the things that Kellen Moore has started to do is place Devontae in the slot. Devontae's had really good luck against the Chiefs in his three previous matchups against them. So I was curious, if they do move him in the slot, what's that matchup look like from your side of things? Is that something that you see as advantageous? Is it something you see as neutral right now? What are your thoughts on Devontae if he's in the slot?
If he's in the slot, he'll see a lot of McDuffie. The
Okay.
Chiefs are not hesitant to put McDuffie in the slot at all. He'll
Okay.
he'll he'll be in the slot quite a bit, and that's where getting Jalen Watson back healthy is important because then he's on the perimeter with AJ Brown.
Gotcha.
So we'll see how that shakes out. The two, I mean, geez, I can't. Maybe two other teams have better receivers than what the Eagles have. Maybe
Mhm.
those two guys are both animals.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's moving him in the slot will definitely occupy McDuffie, and then
Okay.
everybody else has to hold their ground. So
Okay. I was curious about it, and obviously you mentioned those two, and there's still Dallas Goddard to think about,
yeah,
and you've got Saquon in the pass game, who I think they're going to try and find a way to work in. I read today that Saquon's over under in the pass game is like 16 and a half yards, and I was like, wow, okay. I mean, or it's 13 and a half. I'm sorry, it's 13 and a half yards. Um, I mean, you swing a ball out to him in the flat, he might get that all in one, right? So
yeah.
they're going to try and use him a little bit too. So you're right. The offense is explosive, but they do have their weaknesses, especially in Jalen getting rid of that ball. Um, let me ask you this from a chief perspective. Tell us about a guy on your roster or two if you have them that we don't know about that we need to be looking for can make an impact on this on this Super Bowl.
So Kareem Hunt has been really good since coming back to Kansas City. It's actually a really cool story.
Yeah.
He was going to be the next big thing in his rookie and second years in Kansas City. He was fantastic, um, and then he got in trouble, and the Chiefs sort of had to say goodbye and spent a couple years in Cleveland and bouncing around and everything. And when the injury parade at running back this year was not good for Kansas City. It was pretty rough. And they had a fullback playing tailback for a game until they brought back Kareem, who's been a model citizen and running the ball hard for an older now running back. He's not going to go 60 like Saquon, but he's going to break a tackle in the hole and get 6 when he should only get 3, which is really, really important in big games. So Kareem has sort of wrestled the majority of touches away from Pacheco since Pacheco's come back healthy. So you'll see a lot more of Kareem than I think you might expect for Eagles fans thinking it's going to be Pacheco all the time. Kareem's going to get the ball a good bit, and then defensively it's Jalen Watson. He's the second corner opposite Trent. And he's been hurt all season. He had a great couple of first games, and then he missed the majority of the season and came back finally against Buffalo. They sort of nursed him back in. He didn't play a full round of snaps, but he's going to be a really important player for us on the back end.
Yeah, I kind of assumed you were gonna say Kareem Hunt. There was something telling me that I was gonna hear. We talked about him when you signed him, and I was like, I wonder if that's he's gonna go with on offense. I wasn't sure if you were gonna give me that or maybe a Gray sighting. I didn't know where you were gonna
I was
go. I
thinking
wasn't
Noah
sure.
Gray also. I
I
was.
wasn't sure. I was curious of which one. All right, let's do this, and then I wanna get your prediction here, and we'll let you go on your way. But what matchup are you? I said I'm really interested in that KC offense and that Eagle defense. What is there a matchup side of the ball, specific player matchup that you're interested in watching on Sunday night?
Yeah, so Trey Smith and Jalen Carter should be pretty fun. They're both very large, very nasty human beings that play really physical. So that'll be a fun one to watch. Nerve wracking as hell for me because if Carter has a day, it'll be a long one for the Chiefs. But yeah, that one for sure. And then I'm interested to see just in general how Andy and Fangio go against each other. The numbers are interesting, and they tell two different stories depending on how you choose to look at it. Mahomes is 8-0 against Fangio, but Mahomes also EPA against Fangio coach defenses is the lowest amongst all the DCs that he goes up against. The guy that just lost his job in Cincinnati might be right there. But so Fangio has done well against Patrick, but the Chiefs have won the game because the Broncos and the Dolphins haven't been all that great. So that's going to be an interesting one. The Chiefs won the Super Bowl 2 years ago because Gannon had no answers for any of the motion type stuff the Chiefs were doing. They repeatedly exposed the Eagles linebackers in space. Even the secondary of the Eagles, which had great numbers coming into the Super Bowl, once the pass rush didn't get home, it's, oh my God, we got to cover for 2 seconds. Like, we haven't had to do that all season, and they couldn't. So the chess match between Andy and a top shelf DC like Fangio with the talent that the Eagles have, that's just going to be fun to watch. I wish I was a neutral and wasn't emotionally invested. I could just really enjoy it.
Let me ask you one more thing before we get to your prediction, because it popped up when you were talking about a couple things. A lot of people are focusing on the Chiefs' run defense against this really kind of once in our lifetime Eagles rush offense. Do you see the Chiefs more often than not relying on sort of sending those extra guys to get those big run stops? Or do you have confidence in them and that front four, even front 5 or 6 to do enough to try and, put a dent in this run game for the Eagles that has been, one of the best that at least Azzy and I have possibly ever seen,
Yeah. It's the Chiefs' rush defense is quietly pretty good. They have some big bodies that they can put in there. But you sacrifice some pass rush. There's a guy named Mike Pennell who's been around for most of the Chiefs' run. Big body. He was awesome last year against the 49ers. I think McCaffrey had 32 touches in that game between regulation and overtime. And outside of the one swing pass in overtime that he took a long way, they kind of held him in check a little bit. Well, I guess the flea flicker that he scored on, but so yeah, the Chiefs' rush defense is pretty decent. They are going to do some run blitz type fit stuff for sure. It's just the thing that you worry about, like I said, is if you are sending bodies and you don't get there and he gets to the second level, then you've got a big problem. So keeping Saquon to like 4 yards a carry would be great. I'd be pretty excited about that. One of the big problems that you run into against the Eagles is they start every drive at 1st and 9 because they're so automatic with that effing tush push. You have to get them into 3rd and long, and stopping Saquon, especially in the early downs, is a huge part of that. So can they do it? We'll see. If they can, I feel pretty good. If they can't, you guys might have a really fun episode to record after.
One of the
I can't even think about it. I don't even want you to put that in my head, man. It's like,
don't get our
Jedi mind tricks over there. I don't appreciate it.
One of the things to watch for, depending on what type of game it is, specifically if it's a tight game with a small Eagles lead, or a small deficit on those 3rd and longs, 3rd and 5, 3rd and 6, like if Spags decides he's going to bring pressure, something that the Eagles will do, they'll run draw and hand that ball to Saquon on a 3rd and 6, 3rd and 7. Some people call it the coward's draw, but if there's anybody that can run through a blitz, it's Saquon Barkley, and they'll do that to protect Jalen, especially early in games, so that later it's in Spags' head. Oh, if I send it, there's a chance Saquon stands next to him that he's going to hand him that ball, and we got to deal with that again. So just something to keep an eye on, because they've done that throughout the year. It hasn't worked every time, but they've also broken like 25-yard touchdowns on 3rd and 7 or 3rd and 14, and they turn and hand it to 2-6, and off he goes. Like,
yeah, and I think that kind of gets back to what I was saying too. At 3rd and 6 for Philly, they don't need to necessarily get 6. They just need 4.5, and then they can realistically go for it on 4th down. So it's you can afford, to your point in that regard, to just call a run play, and see what happens. They're they got to be a tricky offense to prepare for sure.
Yeah, and they seem to have like you said, opening up the playbook on one side. The NFC Championship was the most open this playbook has looked all year.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if Kellen has more in the bag. We'll see come Sunday. But Kyle, that brings us to prediction time. We're going to save ours for the end of our the rest of our episode. But as of today, on all three apps that I use, it is officially a pick'em. It is dead even on every app that I use, which is just why, like, it just speaks to these two teams and what Vegas thinks of them. That they're basically saying, we don't know. It's a cost for us right now. So with that said, it's a pick'em. The total's 48.5. Who do you got? Give us a score. I have a guess for you, but I'm letting you say it.
Oof. The score part is tricky. I would have never thought 38-35 2 years ago. I mean, seriously, the difference in that game was the first two possessions of the second half. The Eagles went field goal, punt, whereas the Chiefs scored every time. So it's every stop is going to be crucial. The Chiefs the last 2 years have been underdogs going into the Super Bowl, so the pick'em, they're making progress. I don't know, guys. You know how much I think of this Eagles team. They're really good. They wouldn't be there if they weren't, but they're very good. They're a great team. They present a lot of different problems on both sides. I worry that they're better up front on both sides again. I thought that was the case 2 years ago, and the Chiefs wound up doing a good enough job to offset it. I'm going to take Kansas City this time, which scares the absolute hell out of me because the last time I felt confident going into a Super Bowl was the Bucs Super Bowl, and that wound up being an absolute disaster. So there's something about this team and the way that they constantly find a way. It's either 13 or 14 consecutive one-score games they've won, which is by far an NFL record. In a pick'em situation, I'll go with Andy Reid is a better head coach than Nick Sirianni, and Patrick Mahomes will be the best player on the field. Those two things being the case, I'll take Kansas City and then I'll duck and cover. I'll go 28-26. It's going to be close.
Oh, God.
It's going to be really close. First, Kansas City doesn't blow anybody out. I went to the New Orleans game earlier this year, the freaking Saints, and that game was in doubt in deep into the fourth quarter when we were out in Kansas City. So it's going to be a nail biter. I'd be surprised if it was lopsided in either direction, but I'll take the Chiefs to find a way and pull it out late.
Yeah, and another heartbreak for us over here on the Phixated Podcast. We'll just be crying into our beers after the game.
Yeah. I'm not sure I can handle it, quite honestly.
You know what? I think you're not going to get a disagreement on that's a potential outcome from either one of us. I think I see a lot of people out there, and not just Eagle fans, but I see a lot of people out there predicting like a 2-score game in the Eagles' favor because they've done it to teams this year. And I keep saying to people, like, none of those teams they beat have won 5.
Yeah.
And it is, no one blows that dude out, period. Like, he doesn't let his team get blown out. The Eagles had the opportunity. You said it. They had the opportunity 2 years ago. They went into half up 10. If they get a stop and they score, that game becomes in doubt. But 1-5 wouldn't let it happen. And I don't see that sort of a game. I do think it's a 1-score game, one way or the other. I don't know yet. I still don't have my prediction written down. Typically, I have it written down when I sit down, but I don't have it yet. So, Kyle, we wish you the best of luck. And we thank you for coming on the podcast with us. We wish you luck. I'm sure we'll talk a lot over the next 2 days. But thanks, man, and best wishes on Sunday.
Yeah. Thanks, man.
You guys too. You got it, Regs. Thanks for having me, guys. And listen, I'd be remiss if I didn't congratulate you both on 200 episodes. I'm so happy for you guys. Obviously, I'm not an Eagles fan, and I don't follow the NBA at all. I feel about basketball the way you two feel about hockey. But this pod is still an important part of my week every week. I look forward to it all the time. So I appreciate what you're doing, and cheers to 200 more, boys. Great job.
Yeah, really
Thanks,
appreciate it, man.
Appreciate it, man.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Good luck on Sunday, and hopefully, whatever pod we record, will benefit one of us.
That's
one
right.
way or the other. Take care, man.
All right, guys. Go Chiefs,
All
go.
Man, I gotta tell you, I freaking love that guy.
He's fantastic. I mean,
I
I've
love him.
only talked to him twice in my whole life, but like, I'd love to be his friend. Like, can I get on the text
Yeah.
chain, please? I think that'd be awesome.
I'm gonna tell you something. So he went to school with my brother, graduated with my brother. Was always a really good friend of my brother. And you know, I always looked up to Kyle like I looked up to my brother. Like Kyle was over the house a lot, hung out, slept over, like all the things, right? And Kyle like comes from a great family, like all across the board. And you know, we just reconnected over the podcast. Like he texted me and told me how much he enjoyed listening to it, and then you know we exchanged numbers, and since then it's been like pretty much a daily thing, like a you and I thing. You know, I'll text him or he'll text me with something, whether it be sports related. Sometimes we do some politics stuff, like, but he's such a good dude, and he's so knowledgeable when it comes to sports. You know, he's a big Notre Dame fan, and he's a huge Chiefs fan and a big Phillies fan, Flyers fan. So like with the Chiefs, it's a no brainer, man. Like this dude he knows his stuff,
Yeah.
and
Maybe
such an easy guy to talk to.
Maybe you and him need to start our Notre Dame podcast.
Oh God, could you imagine?
No,
A
yeah,
Notre Dame branch?
Yes, I could, Azzy. This is going to turn into me bugging you about this now.
Kyle, you heard it.
I want nothing to do with this, by the way. This is you and him. I want you and him. And then I need you to bring in Josh as like a frequent guest.
I'm expecting the text, Kyle, in response to this.
He's got a great microphone, a great voice. Like this is like we almost just like unfolded it into our laps. Like this has to happen. Start thinking of good names for a Notre Dame podcast.
All right. Kyle, hit me up. We'll talk about it.
I'm not joking about this, by the way. I'm going to pester you about this.
Listen, he and I talk enough Notre Dame.
Why wouldn't we do this? Why wouldn't we do this?
Listen, it took you a year to get me to do this.
We're doing it. This is happening. Mark my words. It is February 7th, 2025 at 9:49 p.m. Mark my words. This will be a thing by the time the next college football season starts.
All right.
I'm putting it out there. It's out there. It's on.
I'm gonna have to do these
record now.
I'm gonna have to do these on the same night because there's no way I'm gonna get 2 podcast nights from my wife.
Listen, man, I think the Notre Dame one might be able to be more popular than this one. Like it might go crazy.
Man. I don't know. We'll see. We'll talk about it.
You and I do this full time. It's just that podcast by itself.
That podcast on its own, huh?
Let's do
a
it.
lot of Notre Dame fans out there.
Can't wait. Coming soon.
All right. Well, whatever it's called. All right. Well, look, we have a guest in. I did put something up. We had a few guests in before. I think some of them got a little antsy and decided to step away. But we've had one hang on for a long time. He texted me on the side and he said, I have a hot take for the podcast.
Oh my God, even better.
So, I mean, get him in here. We're going to get Matt in here.
Here he comes.
Here he comes.
And there he is.
And Maddie's here. Matt.
Yo.
Oh,
there he is.
Matt, how's it going, buddy?
Oh, we're doing okay. You know, I'm sitting here on a Friday night waiting to talk to you fine gentlemen, listening to a murder mystery on ABC. You know, things are good.
I mean, if you can't describe like late 30s life, I don't know what else you need to talk about.
That's the truth. That is the truth. How are you guys?
Doing great, man. How are you?
We are surviving. We are surviving. That's all we can say.
I hear that, buddy. I hear that.
I mean, Riggs, Matt is I'm not going to say new dad at this point, but still early in his dad life. So, I mean, he is we're going to see her.
Oh, no. I got
no. I was about to say, I hope you're not waking her up.
You got up to move as soon as I said it, but he's early in his certainly when he says surviving, I'm sure some of that is the dad life.
So the dad life, some of the teacher life, some of the
Yeah.
husband life, all the
Yeah.
things.
And he's
So-
made his way down to his basement,
love
which
it.
is full of Eagles stuff.
How
we got
old is the
our-
little one now?
Eagles.
Let's start there.
She is 10 months yesterday.
Oh my God, you're not joking about early into
Yeah.
it. Good Lord.
Yeah, it
Early in
is.
the dad era.
All things being considered, she is awesome.
Yeah,
so
that's
I
great.
cannot complain. But it is.
It is
I actually
something.
I jumped on the Discord as I was trying to rock her to sleep, and I was like, they better not,
Just
tag
jump
me
in
right now.
Look, I know he's been waiting for a while, Essie, but this was planned. The baby's asleep.
Yeah.
Like, this is so much
Must have
better
known.
than if we had just jumped him on right away. That would have been a
Yes, I
must have
disaster.
And you know what? We had like 3 people in there waiting, and a few of them dropped, and you stuck strong, Maddie. You hung tight.
He's
You
always
hung tight.
been
Now,
one of the first ones to jump in when we put this out there.
Yeah.
And one of the things about this that's really important is that we're not just talking to an Eagle fan. We're talking to an Eagle season ticket holder. So this guy is a season ticket holder for how many years now?
This was year 4.
Awesome.
Yeah. So in your 4 years, they've been to 2 Super Bowls.
Correct.
They haven't missed the playoffs in your 4 years.
Yes.
So by my calculations, this will happen forever.
That's what I assume.
You have nothing.
That's what he told
but
his wife
success
when he
to write
paid
home.
for the season tickets, is that this is
My-
why this
my-
is worth it.
Absolutely. My ROI is fantastic.
That's right.
now.
Right now, it's off the charts.
Well, that being said, so early on, and I'm sure like all of us, my wife and I sat down and had the conversation of like how many playoff games,
Yeah.
and I was like, "There's no chance we're gonna see 3." I didn't think that we wouldn't go to the Super Bowl, right? Like I had
Yeah.
full expectations, but I didn't expect the Lions to do lion things, and so I was like, yeah, I'll take that deal. I'll go to 2 out of 3, and then we just didn't talk for 3 days. I just avoided her at all costs. The purchase went through, and yeah. So I'm still walking on eggshells in this household, and I came very, very close. I had an offer to go down to the Super Bowl, and I will say it this way: it is not in my price range as a public school teacher. I'll put it that way.
I don't know.
Azzy and I talked about this
outside-
too. As soon as the Eagles won that game, he sent me a picture of hotel room prices or ticket prices.
Ticket price.
And he's like, I can get us a free room and a free flight. And
Yep.
he's like, so I said, I told my wife jokingly, like, hey, as he said he could get me a free flight and a free, hotel room. She's like, to do what? Like, she didn't even put 2 and 2 together. She's just like, for what? Where are you going?
Not a chance.
I was like, we're going to
exactly.
go do the podcast live from New Orleans and then, go to the Super Bowl. How much are
Yep.
tickets? $6,400. And she just walked away.
Yep.
She's like, I'm not even
Yep.
going to speak to you. I'm just walking away.
Yeah.
And my tickets are not expensive, but definitely not cheap.
Yeah,
like
sure.
I know you guys have pretty decent plans for the Phils. For the 9 games, it's under $2,000. Like face value is a little over 200.
Yeah.
I cannot multiply that by 4 just to go to 1 game.
Yeah,
I'll go
right,
to 4 future
right.
seasons
Yeah.
instead of going to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Right.
So
assuming that we
right.
go back every other
Yeah,
year.
of course.
Well, as
We'll
long
be
as you
better.
have season tickets, that's what it is.
That's it's a public service. I'm here to support
Yeah.
the general
Yeah.
interest.
We thank you for your service, by the way.
Yes.
I mean,
yeah.
if I am nothing but superstitious if I'm not superstitious.
Yeah.
So
Well-
I'm gonna need you to keep doing that.
So, I mean, this is part of what I wanted to come on and talk about. So, Azzy and I are watching the Falcons game together the year that they win the Super Bowl. I don't know why I didn't watch the Vikings game with you. All I know is that I, fell asleep preemptively right after the final whistle, the ball going through Julio Jones's hands. I then watched the Super Bowl with my family in a house that we do not have access to anymore. So I'm struggling. 2 years ago, I spend all of the games down in South Philly and then come to the Super Bowl. It is third quarter. I invite
everyone to my house. I put a all call, you are all welcome when Brock Purdy's knocked out and was it Johnson's knocked out?
Yep, Josh
Mhm.
You know,
Johnson.
Josh Johnson's knocked out, and I'm third quarter. I'm like, we're going to the Super Bowl. Everyone's welcome to my house. So third quarter of this game, as it starts to get silly, I, out of respect to how it turned out last time, invited absolutely no one. I said, no one is allowed to my house for the Super Bowl. So I will be sitting in this basement, probably without the heat, just miserably by myself until that final whistle goes. And I assume, my sacrifice will finally right the wrongs.
Yeah, I'm doing the opposite. I'm having people over just to keep the superstition alive because we had my mother-in-law over for the NFC Championship game. And then my wife is like, "Do you want people over?" And I'm like, "No, but I guess I have to."
Yeah,
Like,
absolutely.
I don't want to watch with anyone. Like, I want to be by myself. Like, I'm obviously going to make my kids watch because they have to, and they have to appreciate this. But it's like,
So-
no, I don't want anybody over, but I have
You
to
get-
because this is how it is. This is how this works.
Yeah. Speaking of superstitions, so I have a neighbor of mine who's a big Birds fan, and so we get together at 9:30 before each game of the playoffs, and we do it, throughout the season. But I've progressively had more beers, in our cul-de-sac. So wild card weekend, I had 2. The weekend after that, I had 4, and then NFC Championship, I had 6 beers before I even got on the train to go down to the stadium. And I don't know if I have 8 in me, but I feel, again, another obligation. Like, do I have to? I feel like it's a must do. And at 9:30, we might as well tune up and get ready to, strap the laces. Let's go. So we'll
Yeah.
see. As I sit by myself in my basement,
Yep, that's right.
6 hours later.
Yeah.
So
My big superstition this year, it started after the bye week. Andrea and I were leaving Giant, and I said, "Hey, I'd really could go for a Dunkin' refresher." And we got Dunkin' refreshers. We went back to the house. We watched the Browns game on the deck, and the Eagles won. So I looked at Andrea and I said, "Well, we're gonna have to go next week and get a Dunkin' refresher."
Yep.
And the only week we have not gotten a Dunkin' refresher since the bye week was the Week 16 loss to the Commanders. So
It's good. It's good we
have
know who to
gotten
blame
one.
now, right? It's good we know who to
I
blame.
am to blame
Yep.
for that game.
Yep.
And
Well, thank you.
even snow game, I push because I don't go until a half an hour before kick.
Yep.
So even snow game, I left. It's snow is coming down. Drive to the Dunkin' about 5 miles away from the house, get my refresher, drive back to the house in the snow. And so I will be leaving the house at 5:45 on
Yep.
Sunday night
Yep.
to go get
Yep.
my refresher for the game. So that's been mine. Matt, you said you had a hot take for us.
Yes. So I don't know he's been in the news enough, and maybe I'm just, busy and I'm not seeing it, but I have this feeling, and I don't know how you guys feel about it. So it's third quarter, and Patrick Mahomes gets sacked by Jalen Carter. So bad.
I know where this is
Thrown
going.
to the turf. He is not allowed back in the game for a temporary amount of time, takes one of those pink pills. He's back by the fourth quarter. But do we get our revenge on Carson?
I knew it was coming. I didn't know until you started.
Yeah.
It feels very much written in the stars, though.
There is just this portion, or, does he write himself as the greatest villain in Philadelphia sports lore in that game?
I think the way you make it even better is that's one of BG's like 10 plays he plays, and he's the one to come in and put Carson in the dirt.
Oh my goodness. I just have this feeling of like, so many of these games you're like, oh, I'm satisfied for Andy. I'm not a fan of Patrick, but he is the most talented human on planet Earth.
Yeah.
Like there's no denying that fact.
Yeah.
But there's just this, like, I don't know how I would feel. Like, if Carson retires after this game or, 2 seasons from now and just kind of goes on his merry way, I will have no need to have ill will. right? I can respect the fact that he got us to the Super Bowl. We wouldn't have gone there without him. Obviously, he didn't, cross the finish line. Obviously, it wasn't a celebration of, sorts that, he wanted, we wanted for him. He leaves under his terms that we don't love. I see him either being the greatest villain or the greatest scapegoat's not the right word, but like the greatest satisfaction of closing that chapter. And I have a feeling it's going to happen at some point.
I'm going with that. I'm going BG sacks him on like 3rd and 7 to like ice the game.
I would love it.
We're up 10 points. It's 3rd and 7. BG's on his like 8th, 7th or 8th play. And BG just puts Carson in the dirt. And that makes them punt. We go down, we score a touchdown. And like, that's it. That's all, folks.
Yep. I'll say this. Like, it would be written in the stars for him to be the villain. Like, that would just be the
swear to
most
God,
Philly
if Carson Wentz beats us for a Super Bowl, we're going to have a problem.
It would be the
we're
most.
Gonna, we're going to have a problem.
But I'm going to add this. While I would love for us to close that chapter, there's a part of me that's like, Pat, you better not be on that sideline at any point, because you can just hear the skeptics. And
I don't care. I don't care.
Yep.
I don't care.
I do.
I don't.
Not
care. A bit.
I still get mad about the bullshit Brock Purdy didn't play thing. So you think I'm going to be okay with
the reason he didn't?
Mahomes?
I don't care. In 2008, we played the Rays. I don't care. I have not been alive for enough championships that I can start to matter about that. If we're going for our three-peat and then that happens, fine. Maybe I'll be upset. No, I don't care what happens. I don't care if every player on the Chiefs starting lineup gets injured in this game and we beat their backups. I don't care.
Yeah. I want to be clear in saying that nobody here is wishing.
No, of course not.
No,
of course never.
It's just I understand the hypothetical of it. My stance is I don't want to fight that fight. Go ahead, Matt.
So the two things is if the Sixers had won either in the bubble or this in-season tournament, you can't tell me that you wouldn't celebrate it like a major championship.
Oh no, I would.
I hate the Sixers, so I don't know about me, but
I'm using that as right? Like, it doesn't matter. You win the bubble, you still won an NBA championship. Every team that was worth something was in that bubble.
Mm-hmm.
You still played against the best. So in that sense, like, I don't care who we're playing as long as we win. That's all that matters. And all of the dialogue that's around it fades so quickly.
Yeah.
Like,
it's over by the time the season starts. Yep.
Yeah. Good point. That's a good point.
I guess I also like one of the thoughts that I keep on getting hung up on is who is the unsung player? And what I mean by that is I think back to 2017 and I just go through the different plays that are so bookmarked in my brain. Obviously the Philly special is the most obvious one, but you have the Corey Clement,
I'm looking
Zach
at the
Ertz,
picture of it right now.
right?
Yeah.
The Zach Ertz touchdown where he's bobbling the ball. Is it touchdown? Does it break the plane? You have the BG sack, you have the Hail Mary. Like, what is the player? Because we have so many studs on this offense, and defense too. But who is that player that you're like is going to absolutely enshrine themselves in this game? Is it a Grant Calcaterra or is it someone more obvious just being so dominant? I'll use the example. I get a jersey of every Super Bowl of the person that I think of the most. So part of the reason in 2017 was Chris Long because of what he did throughout the season, right? 2022 was a little different. I got Jalen Hurts because he was, besides that fumble, unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't know who that player is that you're like, he showed up and he was otherworldly in this specific stage.
You want to go first, Azzy? Because I have my choice.
I have one on offense and one on defense.
Oh,
being honest with you,
mine's very specific to one side.
Go ahead.
It's Nolan Smith.
That was my defensive one.
I think.
Yeah.
I think because of how weak the tackles are for Kansas City, he has the opportunity to, like, prove every person wrong who thought last year that he this is your first,
What a
this is
stretch,
right.
yeah.
This is your second first round pick or whatever it was, right? This is your pick after Jalen Carter of all people.
Yep.
This is the guy you're going to put on the edge to replace Hassan Reddick. Like, this is the guy, this small guy who only can speed rush, can't set an edge, all this stuff. And that guy has proved everybody wrong this year. Everybody.
Yeah.
Unbelievable playoffs.
And he's bigger, he's faster, he's smarter. And he's just, listen, I don't know if it's going to happen, but if there's anybody who has the opportunity to cement himself in Eagles lore,
that's a great call.
It's Nolan Smith right now with the opportunity that the Kansas City tackles present to the outside guys. And Nolan's been playing really, really well this playoffs and this season. He's been fantastic. And I just think he's got a huge chance to be that guy that we look back and we're like, holy shit, Nolan Smith had 3 sacks and 3 tackles for loss because he set such a good edge. And he got Pat Mahomes trying to escape to the outside. He just has an opportunity to be truly impactful.
Yeah. He was my defensive choice. I'll do my offensive one then. So interesting fact I came across today as I was studying the Chiefs a little bit. Kansas City allows more yards to tight ends than any other team in the NFL. And the most maligned player, at least on this podcast, on the Eagles offense is Dallas Goedert. But Dallas Goedert has had one of the best postseasons of any Eagle on the offensive side of the football, period, point blank. Yep. And I can see this offense revolving a little bit more around him on those quick hitters to the middle of the field, down the seam, that end around play that they've all of a sudden discovered with him.
Yeah,
right. I really think this could be a Dallas Goedert game, more so than even AJ Brown or Devontae Smith. Yeah. I was in on Devontae. Devontae kills the Chiefs. But man, when I looked at the numbers for opposing tight ends against the Chiefs, I was like, goodness, this could be a Dallas Goedert game. Yeah. Especially with his contract situation up in the air for next year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what's
your choice?
My defensive player right now is Quinyon. I think what Quinyon ends up doing, this is my opinion, is he cements his role. Cooper DeJean, the exciting whites, they're getting all of the attention and, deservedly so. From Cooper's tackle of Derrick Henry, right, onward, he has earned every bit of the reputation he's gotten. But there's a reason that Q was drafted first. And I have a feeling that there are going to be a few plays where he shows that he should have been Defensive Rookie of the Year. And just, hidden amongst all of the muck of everything else because he's not a flashy player because, he just smothers people and just totally takes them out of the game. So he's who I would say on the defensive side. I really have a feeling that it's going to be an AJ game. That's just my opinion. I have this feeling that he is wide receiver 1 amongst the tier of wide receivers of the Jamar Chases, the Jeffersons. People are talking about neighbors. Now, AJ Brown is going to absolutely dominate. He is a beast among boys, not even just a man amongst boys. He is a beast among boys. And I have no doubt in a game where they're going to overload to protect the run and they're going to, try to deceive as much. And Spags is an excellent defensive coordinator. Obviously, you just have to go for the best player on the field. And I think second to Saquon, it's AJ Brown. You put it anywhere in that sphere, and he is just going to embarrass some people. And not from speed.
It's true. No.
And so, there's a reason why he's in this position. He has gotten so much, crap all season long. book, the comments from BG, what have you. But I just I imagine that he is going to just earn all of his money in one game. That's just my assumption. And come out, and just, it's a reclamation project in that moment.
Yeah, I can see all of those and more. And I think that's, when you look at the two rosters, you hear a lot of the Eagles better. The Chiefs just have the better quarterback and the better head coach. So what's it going to be? The better roster or the better quarterback and the better head coach? And a pick 'em, who knows? But we shall see, man. We are 2 sleeps away tonight,
Yeah.
tomorrow night, and it's a Super Bowl. So Matt, before we wrap up here, because we finish up our the rest of our preview here, but what's your prediction? What do you got? You're sitting in your basement Sunday night at like 11 o'clock rolls around. Are you drinking in celebration or are you drinking in sadness?
I think we're drinking in celebration. There's no question. I think, and I don't know how you guys felt. I went into the Super Bowl 2 years ago, never feeling more confident, and that was because I didn't respect Patrick by all means. But I went in so confident because I knew we had the better team, and we got, one Bradbury play away from seeing if that was really true. And that's not on him by any means, but boy, did that wreck his career. I feel like it is the redemption that we all deserve. And, if they're going to write a script, I know that that's not true, but if they're going to write a script, they're not writing it for a team in Missouri to have a three-peat. So, one of the greatest teams, one of the greatest sports cities deserves their time to shine. And I think we're hosting Lombardi in a couple hours from now at this point, which is wild.
All right, man. Well, I know we'll be talking over the next couple of days, and thanks for popping on and hanging out with us. And go Birds, bud.
Go Birds.
Yeah,
great to talk to you guys.
Man. Appreciate it.
See you, buddy.
See ya.
Well, bud, let's jump real quickly into what we've done all playoff long. I want to just quickly talk about our outlooks on this Kansas City offense, Eagles defense, and vice versa. Then we'll get into our keys. I think Kyle did a great job covering it with this from Kansas City. One of the things that I want to just highlight for people is that most of this game is going to look like the first drive of the Washington. That's how Kansas City's offense runs. It is very, very methodical. It's a quick passing game, quick and decisive. The Eagles are going to have to be up on the line of scrimmage if they don't want to get picked apart. So we're going to have to see dudes up in the grill, putting pressure on, passing off in their zone right out of the gate. From a rushing game standpoint, I know Kyle said that it's been a better run game. I looking at what I've looked at, since they made that line change, it's not been good. I think I read 50% of their carries since the line change have ended up in a loss of yards.
I'm going to talk about this in like my keys. Yeah.
The Eagles might feast on that. So really what this comes down to is pass rush lane discipline, not letting Patrick escape, being really, really disciplined, and making sure you're passing off those receivers in zone. Again, if he can run around back there, he's going to find guys.
Yes.
So when you're thinking about this offense versus that defense, you've got to get home this week. Like, you just have to. You did not 2 years ago. I don't want to hear about the turf. I don't want to hear about that stuff. You got to get home. One way or the other, you're going to have to hit him a couple of times. Because I do think the secondary is going to do a good enough job. So that's from the offensive side versus the Eagles defense. On the other side of things, they are still a good defense, this Kansas City team. They are. I have seen little holes poked in them here and there. Chris Jones is still freaking unbelievable.
God, yeah.
But they're going to do everything they can to not run anywhere near him. The interesting matchup for me is Jones and Becton.
Yeah.
Jones will line up all over the field.
Yeah.
All over that front. But I think they're going to do most of their matchups on Becton, especially on passing down.
Mm-hmm.
The blitz will be very intriguing. Kyle mentioned that. I worry a little bit about just how exotic it gets and how Jalen responds to it. He was great 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't impacted by it outside of that fumble at all. We'll see what happens. If they're running cover 0, they need to have solutions, quick solutions.
I think that's where if we're gonna see Dallas Goedert like sweep runs, if we're gonna see the kind of plays we've been expecting to see with guys open, like guys being schemed open, then we have to see a solution. Like, you know what Spags is gonna do. You don't know when, but you know it's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to equip Jalen with enough like film of like, hey, this is what this looks like. Look, is he going to dial up things that nobody's seen before? Yes, he's a fantastic defensive coordinator. Like, so yes, he is. And like, you have to be able to adapt at that point, but you have to build in routes that allow you to like figure that out. You can't have all your routes be 7 yards downfield when you never know when this is going to come. Like, you can't build your offense not expecting it to happen.
Right.
I think that's the difference.
Right.
You have to build in just one thing that is going to be able to bail you out on any particular play, because you don't know when he's going to send it, and you may not know that it's coming, but you have to build in things that allow you to get out of it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I agree, and I think that's the big question. Will they be ready for that come Sunday night? I believe they will, and I think the other piece to this offense that made me smile today. I don't know what made me think of it. I was actually running a training, and I at some point I just thought of this, and I was like, oh my gosh, Saquon's had 2 weeks. He's gonna have fresh legs, Regs. Like, Saquon Barkley's gonna have fresh legs in the Super Bowl, and when Kyle said if they're holding him to 4 yards of carry, I'm thrilled, which is wild because 4 yards of carry is quite a chunk on every play. Most running backs would kill to average 4 yards of carry.
Mm-hmm.
Saquon would much prefer to get 6 or 7. But that's got to be a terrifying thought for an opposing defense with this offensive line, that Saquon Barkley's going to have fresh legs. Truly, honestly. And the other guy's going to have fresh legs. We didn't talk about it all. Brandon Graham.
Yep.
And I know the 10 plays, they keep saying it. I don't know it's only going to be 10 plays.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, we might get 15 to 20 Brandon Graham plays in this game. 10 to 15 is fantastic, all things considered. And if he's got 10 to 15 plays, he's going to be high motor for all 10 to 15. So definitely. And he was playing some of the best football of his life.
Yeah, he was.
Up till he got injured. So that's a huge addition that I don't think is being talked about enough right now.
Yeah.
That even if he's 75% of what he was before he left, 50% of what he was, still better than Bryce Huff standing there.
Well, yeah, for sure.
God almighty. All right. Anything else to add there?
No, I just think it's wild to go into a game worrying about, can their coaches outweigh our talent that's on the field? Like, I'm not sure when I've ever thought that about a football game, but it's absolutely almost at the top of the list outside of going against 1-5.
Yeah.
Like, after that, it's, will their coaching somehow outweigh the talent that this Eagles team has?
It's crazy.
And it's two guys who will never step a foot on the actual field against 22 starters of top level professional athletes. And it's wild to think about. It's wild to be like, that's the second thing that I'm worried about.
But let's be real. it is at least the offensive side versus the defensive side in Super Bowl 57. That's why the Eagles lost.
Absolutely.
Andy absolutely pantsed Jonathan Gannon.
Mm-hmm.
He absolutely pantsed him in the second half.
Mm-hmm.
So with that being the case, we're just hoping that Vic doesn't get pantsed. That's all. And honestly, Regs, and look, I could regret saying this come Sunday night. I don't see Vic getting pantsed. Like, thank you. Yeah, I'll do it too.
Thank you.
But early, we've seen it this year early in games where Vic like looks like he's getting exposed.
Yeah.
Like that Ravens game
That's a
looked to
great
be
point.
like it was
Yep.
going to be that way.
That's a great point.
And then all of a sudden he makes an adjustment, and like that, they were down 10-0 in the Ravens game. They were down 10-0 in a blink of an eye, 10-0. And then they settled in, and it was like the Ravens couldn't even move the football anymore.
I think that's I think that's the biggest difference between 22 and now, is that on defense, at least, we have a guy who's proven his ability to adapt from one snap to the other, not just like series to series or quarter to quarter or half to half. He will make an adjustment from one play to the other.
Yeah.
For what he's seeing. And like, that's what we're talking about. But like, that's, it's crazy. It's crazy.
You can bet that if he gets exposed or the defense gets exposed, or like Kyle talked about, they're doing things differently than they normally do, he's going to have an answer for it.
Yeah.
He's going to change things up. He's not going to stick with what's not working. And that's what the Bills did against the Chiefs. The Bills were like, we're just going to play man. We're not even going to disguise it. Like, we're just going to play man and hope it works. And they just got absolutely throttled because they weren't doing anything differently. People want to blame calls. They can blame calls all they want. It wasn't about the calls.
Yeah.
You can't just sit in man against Patrick Mahomes for 3.5 quarters.
Right. Yeah.
And not disguise it and think that this dude's not going to torch you. Like, you're going to have to do different things. And I fully expect that Vic's going to do his cover 4, cover 6. He's going to drop 8 into coverage at times. This is not going to be, they're going to do everything they can to neutralize 1-5. And
Kelsey.
8-7.
Yeah.
And 8-7. Yeah. They're going to do everything they can. They trust everything else about their zone. They trust everything else about their corners. They're going to do everything in their power. And they might even throw a little man in here. Just to, Jaden Daniels talked about how they were in cover 2 out of nowhere on one possession. He just threw it 20 yards out of bounds because he hadn't seen it. So think about on a big play. Now, this is Mahomes. That's Jaden Daniels. Slate on Jaden Daniels. He's fantastic. We treated him like Pat Mahomes most of the year. So, and he did his little robot vision thing that he does, and he never saw that happen. So there could be a big play in this game where all of a sudden the Eagles show cover 4, cover 6, drop into cover 2, and Pat gets just the 1 second. 1 second, and someone hits him, or he throws it away, or he throws something errant, which is so uncharacteristic to happen. But you get my point.
Yeah.
I just don't expect I don't expect Vic to come in. He's going to do what works. He's going to do the things that got them there.
Yeah.
But he's going to have wrinkles.
Yeah.
Specifically for this game, and I hope Kellen Moore does too. All right, man. Keys, predictions. Deep breath.
Yeah. God.
We didn't think we were going to be talking about this in October.
I can't explain to you how much I've been making myself not think about Sunday night this week.
I know. Same.
It's all I've been doing. Like, I've had a busy ass week at work. The normal kid stuff, right, is happening. Like, my life hasn't gotten less busy.
Yeah.
But everything in my power has been not to focus on this Super Bowl because I can't do it. I can't be like a nervous wreck from Monday all the way to Sunday. I can't do it. I wouldn't be able to function. And I'm starting to feel it, and I'm trying my best not to. But
no, I've been the same way.
You got to go first.
I'll go first.
You got to go first. Yep. Listen, I'm not messing that up. Don't think I'm not taking my eye off the ball. Come on now.
Yeah. Look, man, I could sit here and give schematic keys all day. And I don't know which one I would pick. Like run the football, dominate the line of scrimmage. I don't think that's it, man. Like I think it's a little deeper than that. I think this team looks like they are just laser focused on bringing this thing home. And I think if they play with the type of mentality and the type of confidence and flair that they've played with since week 5, I think they win. I'm not saying they win by a lot. I've already stated I don't think that's this type of game. Or at least the score doesn't show it's going to be that kind of game. I think the key to this game is to live to the moment. You were this close. You were this close 2 years ago. We wouldn't be talking about a three-peat if one or two plays
Two plays
on the defensive side and the fumble
Well,
on the
yeah,
offensive
okay,
side.
yes.
That's why I said 3.
Yeah.
Then we're not talking about a three-peat. We're talking about the Eagles potentially on the verge of a three-peat. I know what happened last year, but I go back to that being the result of the year before. We're talking about at least potential 2 out of 3 Super Bowls for the Eagles. So I think the key is to show up with that mentality they talk about, that dog mentality, that hunter's mentality. Don't play like 15 is 15. Like, don't play scared because of who he is. Play like it's every other quarterback you've played. You've played talented quarterbacks this year. Like Lamar Jackson, Matthew Stafford, Jaden Daniels, Burrow. The list goes on. They have played good quarterback. They've beaten good quarterbacks. They've beaten the hell out of really good teams. Go in there with that mentality. That's the key to this game. The schematics are the schematics. You're going to do what you're going to do. Just go in there with the mentality that you're going to win the game. Play with with the fuel and the fire you played with for 16 weeks now. And I don't think you're going to lose. I don't have another key.
Yeah, mine is it's a toss up between the O line and the D line. I'm gonna go the D line. I think it's more important, and I think there's more of a variance in the defensive line. That's why I'm gonna make it a key. I think the offensive line has been consistent. Some people have talked about they haven't been so great in the past few weeks. I think we've obviously seen the injuries, that have come up for Cam and Landon be a part of that. But I think if the defensive line has an outstanding game, this might get ugly. Truly. I think that almost more than anything, like we saw it in the Bucks game. The Bucks win that game against the Chiefs because their defense and their pressure made Mahomes be a non-factor. I'm not sure you can make Patrick Mahomes at this point in his career a non-factor.
Yeah, at that
which
point,
I understand.
Sure.
He's still early in his career there. I get it, but like the more that you can ticket towards that side of the box, the greater chance you have to win the football game. If this defensive line stays disciplined and gets the pressure that I think they can get, I think like there's a good chance that this isn't like a 1-score game. It's a 2.5 score game.
Wow.
Like that's the difference.
Yeah. No, I don't disagree. I still struggle with blowing out this guy and who he is now.
I hear you. I'm with you, but I think the only way it happens, it's not if the secondary plays well, because I don't think I don't think that is the difference. It is if this defensive line can keep him contained and pressure him enough. That's like the biggest variance in my mind.
All right. We've made it.
Oh my God.
It's a pick 'em. There's no spread as of this moment at 10:30 on Friday night. It is a pick 'em. 48.5 point total. Kyle said it earlier. He didn't think 38-35 was a possibility.
Yeah.
I've been so back and forth on scores. Like I refuse to pick a blowout, and what the score that I'm going to give might perceive that way, but I don't think it's going to be that way.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be one of those situations where like something happens late and they score late.
Right.
But I think the final of this game is 28-17 Eagles. And I think it's some result of like 21-17 and getting the ball back somehow. And but I say 28-17 Eagles, which is under the point total. I have it 45.
I'm taking the Eagles 30-20.
30-20. Okay. Well, buddy, 200 episodes. The Super Bowl preview, 200 episodes. Eagles, I am begging you not to make 201 a repeat of whatever it was back in 2023 when we recorded this. I need it to be a celebration. Regs and I have not had a championship celebration on this podcast. Please be the first.
Yeah.
I'm begging you to be the first. I need it. I want it so badly. I need this championship for so many reasons. Please, 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 Birds. I'm begging you.
Yeah. So,
all right.
Hold on. Let me just quickly.
Holding.
If I can wax poetic a little bit here.
Wax poetic.
Our first episode. Our first episode was August 7th, 2021. So we're coming up on, the 4-year anniversary of the pod. I can't believe we're at 200 episodes. That seems wild to me. We're closing in on 7,000 downloads.
Wow.
In those episodes. You and I don't take the opportunity a bunch, now, but like we've obviously talked about it, but I just want to express my appreciation for jumping on here, not only being able to talk to you for, a good 2 hours about the sports that we love, the stuff that we love to talk about and would talk about anyway, if nobody was listening. But as we've discussed, it's the 30 or 40 minutes before the pod happens. It's the 20 minutes after the pod, after we press stop recording, that I wouldn't, take away for very much of my life. To talk to a best friend and have like a weekly appointment to catch up and talk about stuff, life, whatever's going on, is truly like the unsung hero of these 200 episodes, the hours and hours that we've been able to just chill and talk to each other and connect again, like, as if we were living right next to each other, like we were so many years ago. So just the fact that there's people like Kyle or Matt or, a bunch of others that even listen to us regardless. I've told you this from the jump, and it was one of the main reasons that I told you that we should do this. It's like, who gives a shit if anybody listens to it? Who cares? Who cares? Like, the joy that I get from talking to you about this and knowing like that we're going to do this each week, and look at the people we've been able to talk to.
Yeah.
And like the stuff we've been able to do. Listen, I say this with, all the love in the world, 2 nobodies. We talked to freaking Ruben Amaro Jr. He was a general manager of like the Philadelphia Phillies, our favorite baseball team. We've talked to beat reporters and radio hosts, and like, it's been fantastic. I can't wait to do 200 more, but I just hope you know how much I appreciate the time you take for it, the thought you put into it, and the, hours that we've been able to spend when that little record, signal is not up, is more valuable to me than, there's very few things in the world more valuable to me than the friendship that we've been able to have and like with our guys, but it's been fantastic. I've had a blast on every single one. I've enjoyed every single episode. There's not one I could think back on and be like, I pressed end record and we like disconnected and I'm like, man, that wasn't so great. Not a one. And I can't wait to keep it going. I hope that we continue to have these playoff episodes for the Phillies, these playoff runs for the Eagles, the Sixers, fuck them. Who cares? But it's just, I can't say it enough, buddy, how much I appreciate you and the time we've been able to spend together, and to get like 200 is a wild number. Just wild. It's a wild number. And it's been, every second of it has been worth it.
Yeah, man, for sure. I agree. Thanks for saying all that. And certainly the feeling's mutual. I don't know how I top a good tribute to our friendship and the show. And honestly, like I've been through a lot of personal things. When you said the date, I was like, holy crap, all the stuff that's happened between then and now. And a lot of it, I came on here and vented out to you, and this show has been a really good distraction from a lot of those things. And certainly, I echo the sentiment of like just getting on and talking your your best friend about whatever, the ridiculous shit we talk about at the beginning of an episode, to our anger with Alec Boehm and how much Josh Harris sucks balls and all this other stuff, right? And things we would talk about. We were just sitting in one of our living rooms or basements with a beer in our hands and sharing it with people. Like we said, we thought like maybe our families would, but the fact that this has been downloaded close to 7,000, more than 7,000 times or whatever is just insane. So I thank you again for, forcing the issue with me and getting me on here to talk about something that we both love, and gives us a chance to, keep our friendship fresh and challenge each other every week. So I appreciate you, buddy. And I love you. Cheers to you.
Hey.
And 200 episodes,
to 200 more, right?
to go.
To 200 more.
300, 700, 900, whatever.
We weren't joking when the goal of this is to make this our job.
Yeah, so
I don't care how old we are. We can still do it. Well, Gary Vee didn't get popular until he was like 40 something, right?
Who?
Gary Vee, that like influencer guy. He's like, look, he made a crappy wine review show for years before he got popular. Look at him now.
Yep.
Who says it can't be us?
We'll keep pushing.
Listen,
pushing. And in order for us to do
Barstool's Philly is like fucking terrible. Like, just get us on that. What are we waiting for?
I know. What are we doing?
We could be the PHLY Phillies podcast right now.
100% right now.
That's what I'm talking about.
Right now. We just got it. We got to talk to the right people. Y'all listen.
We'll figure it out.
Help us out. Click subscribe on the YouTube channel below. Don't be lame. Just freaking do it.
Come on.
And then, come on. And then go to wherever you get your podcasts and follow and rate there. Head on over to Twitter, which I don't know, Regs. I don't know. Twitter, people are just dropping like flies over there. We might have to have a conversation about it. Might be blue skying soon.
We might be blue skying soon. That's what I was just about to say.
Soon. Yeah, we might be blue skying soon. We'll see. But for now, at the Phixated Pod on Twitter, at the Mic Drop 5, at Big Regs with a Z. Head on over to Facebook, at the Phixated fan page, which we are posting on quite a bit more now. That TikTok page is flying, y'all. Get over there. At the Phixated Pod on TikTok. I am having a blast making these videos and trolling people who try and come in and troll. Today, some guy commented on a preview pod or a preview post I did and said, they're going to lose Bud. And I said, thanks for your input. I'm having a blast. Just like, just like
Trolly Azzy
trolling
on
people
TikTok
back.
is fantastic. I love it.
I'm loving every minute of it.
I love it.
Yesterday, I took like a little breather after that moron
Yeah,
was like
yeah.
talking all the crap on Jalen, and I came back on with a video. I said, sometimes you just got to step away from stupid, and I did. Like, there are times I just need that guy to know that when put it out there, the Eagles win the Super Bowl and Jalen has a good game, he better block our TikTok account. He better block it, because I'm just gonna retweet or retalk.
I'll give you 10 minutes. I'll give you 10 minutes on the pod if you're up for it. Let's hash it out.
What for him to come on?
Yeah, let's real time it. That's what I mean. Let's real time it.
He can absolutely come on and talk to me. And do his like really lame.
Yeah.
He throws the ball.
Yep.
He throws the ball away.
It's the most talented roster. Like blah blah blah.
This guy tried to argue he throws the ball away and that makes him a one-read quarterback. You know who else do the ball away a lot? Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers. What are we talking about?
Tom Brady didn't take a sack for the last 3 years of his career because he just threw the ball away.
I swear to God, sometimes people they don't know when to shut up. Anyway, follow us on TikTok and I'll probably like you unless you're an idiot. And then the merchandise link. I have to reach out to our guy and Don and find out what he wants. So we'll do some more merchandise stuff. But we're almost at 50 TikTok followers. Slow but surely. I love it. But we're up in it. We're up in it. I think when I started posting these,
it was like
real, we were
3.
At we were like 2 or 3. Yeah. So since I've started doing them daily, we've been adding. So keep them rolling. But until then, we'll be back on Sunday night, one way or the other.
Yes, we will.
If they win, we will open up the podcast.
That is right.
For reactions. We will open it up to come in and talk to us and celebrate with us. I will just have alcohol lining this table.
Just lined up. Yep.
It will just be alcohol lining this table. Until then, we love you. Take care of yourselves. Take care of one another. Be kind to yourselves. Be kind to one another. And for the love of God, go Birds.
I love you, pal. Go Birds.
Oh, my God. Deep to right field. Way up there and way out of here. The Philadelphia Eagles are Super Bowl champions. Eagles fans everywhere, this is for you.
The 0-2 pitch. Swing and a miss. Struck him out. The Philadelphia Phillies are 2008 World Champions of Baseball.